With Manchester United's budget issues in the transfer market and Kobbie Mainoo's already impressive performances over the past year or so, could the 18-year-old academy graduate be the man that Ten Hag can trust to be the Casemiro backup in the squad? Or is it too early in his development, and is he even what you would call a number 6? Before I get into actually analysing Mainoo individually, I should say that I really think it depends on the identity of Ten Hag's United. If United want to remain true to their philosophy of developing youngsters and looking to have future key players who come through the academy as Marcus Rashford, Mason Greenwood and Alejandro Garnacho all have in recent years, then realistically at some point you're going to have to give these young players a chance in the first team. And by chance I don't just mean a game here or there, I mean fully established roles in the squad throughout the course of a whole season. But before I go any further, remember to subscribe to the channel and check out my Patreon podcast, which will be linked below. But also, if you want cheap good quality football jerseys for the new season or retro jerseys from the past 40 years, then check out jerseyfifa.com, a link will be in my Instagram bio, and if you use coupon code Atlantis you should get a discount as well. I'll leave my Instagram at the top of the description and comment section, and a link will be in my Instagram bio. If you look at the most successful youth systems across Europe, giving young players not just an early avenue into the first team, but also regular minutes is a crucial part of their development. Ajax are notorious for putting huge trust in young players, and because at Ajax there is a clear and vivid philosophy that has been ingrained in the club since the days of Rinus Michels and Johan Cruyff, players like De Jong, De Ligt, Timber and Gravenberch are able to develop a lot quicker than a lot of other young players at Premier League clubs. At Benfica, for example, they have a policy of essentially graduating at least 2 youth players into the first team every year, and this has more than paid its dividends, with the Estadio da Luz being a breeding ground for a substantial amount of elite European talents. And so if United do want to bring through youth players into key roles into the first team, and they do rate those young players at the club, then this sort of approach that Benfica use seems like an ideal strategy. Kobbie Mainoo did get a start on the opening pre-season game against Leeds, starting as the single pivot in the Casemiro role. Now I think I've made 2 previous analysis videos on Mainoo in the last year or so, which I will leave linked in the description, but I remember watching Mainoo whilst he was playing for the under-21s and under-18s the season before, and to me it seemed pretty obvious that his long-term position, particularly in a system like Ten Hag's, was always going to be that deep single pivot number 6 position. Now some people seem to think that he was more of a number 8 like Paul Pogba, but to me this is just not understanding how to judge players at youth level. Most players who end up at the top level playing in deeper positions, either in the back line or deep in midfield, start off in youth football higher up the pitch, with Trent Alexander-Arnold the best example, and Scott McTominay also another example of this. The technical quality of the average player at youth level compared to the technical ability in the Premier League and at the top level is drastically different, and so just because a player looks like he can play a more advanced position in the midfield because of his dribbling, passing, etc., doesn't mean that this is going to translate to senior football, especially in the Manchester United first team. And I actually think it's preferable for players to move deeper as they transition from youth football to first team football, as just think about the level of technical ability that a side like United require in those deeper positions, particularly in those deeper central positions, with these players being crucial in the build-up phase. Now you can still of course take more defensive minded youth players and still integrate them successfully into a first team role, but because at youth players like Mainoo, who are given more advanced roles, are much superior technical players, it makes sense to then take these type of players and try to develop their defensive ability, as well as their positional awareness in that given role, rather than taking a youth player who may be defensively superior, but then you have to try to develop their technical ability, which I think is a lot harder. And to me, Kobbie Mainoo's style screams of a number 6. What I was really impressed with when looking through a few clips of him during the Leeds game was his composure on the ball under pressure, having the ability that players like Amrabat, Sangare and even world class players like Frankie de Jong have, of being able to almost do a 360 on the ball, moving it one way before swivelling quickly and driving off into the space in the other direction. And this attribute in particular would allow him to be that player to receive the ball off the centre backs and keeper and utilise his close ball control, agility and powerful dribbling to bypass a pressing player. Now I do think he could definitely be used as a number 8 if needed, but I'd rather him being the player receiving the ball in front of the opposition's midfield line and then looking to progress it into the likes of Mount and Fernandes between the lines, rather than being the player receiving the ball in these positions and then looking to create in the final third. And I think it's Mainoo's ball carrying and incisive passing which are the two key aspects of his game. The ability to receive the ball as he does and just glide past pressing players in deeper areas is something incredibly hard to find or develop, and that is why the likes of Caicedo, Rice and De Jong are so expensive. And whilst I certainly don't think he comes in next season and starts dominating games as a deeper line playmaker, when I do watch him, his willingness to try those line breaking passes rather than simply shuttling the ball out wide to keep possession is something that I really like about him. Too often, these young central midfielders have great technique and a solid range of passing, but it's those threaded passes into advanced central positions which really separates the decent young midfielders from the ones with elite level potential. And Mainoo's ability to play these passes alongside his ball carrying to me makes him one of the most exciting young talents in the Premier League. From a defensive point of view, I think it's too early to make any concrete claims, as obviously the technical level and physicality of youth football makes it incredibly hard to judge how players will then transition into the first team, particularly in that deeper defensive midfield area. However, Mainoo certainly has the physicality already at 18 that players like Fred and Eriksen desperately lacked last season. Now, he isn't Casemiro level obviously, but he's more than capable of putting in a tenacious tackle and throwing himself to block a shot around the box, but this will likely be the area of his game that needs the most developing. Positionally, young players are always suspect throughout periods of a season, but comparing McTominay or Fred in that role to Mainoo, and I actually think the 18-year-old is better defensively in these sorts of areas, and so having Mainoo as a backup to Casemiro next season is definitely more appealing to me than keeping either of McFred. But the big question that Ten Hag is going to have to answer over the coming weeks is, does he stick with Mainoo or does he pursue someone like Amrabat, Lavia or someone else? Well, in my opinion, in an ideal world, Mainoo would go out on loan to a lower table Bundesliga club or a mid-table Eredivisie club, but specifically clubs that have forward-thinking, progressive-style managers and in teams where he will be used as that number 6, as it just makes sense, as that is going to be his role when he comes back to United. There's no sense in sending him to a championship side who play 4-4-2 and use a direct style of play, because firstly, that's not going to enable Mainoo to develop the skills needed to play that very specific single pivot number 6 position, and secondly, I'm just not a fan of sending players on loan to the championship. As well as the likes of Alvaro Fernandez and Amad Diallo have had success there, I do think it's very hit or miss, and with the unpredictability of the championship, managers can be sacked at short notice, and if another manager comes in with different tactics and ideas, it can lead to loan players falling out of favour. If United could bring in a truly elite midfielder like a Caicedo, which doesn't look likely, or even a Maxime Cucurella who could play either as a 6 or as an 8, then I would go for that option, and then send Mainoo on loan for next season, whilst Amrabat would definitely be a level or two above Mainoo right now if he was to come in as a backup to Casemiro, and would likely put in a higher level of performance across the whole season. Because I don't think he has world class potential as the likes of Caicedo and Cucurella do, I would rather take a chance on Mainoo at least for next season. In terms of someone like Lavia, 100% I'd rather Mainoo, firstly because of the cost, and secondly because whilst Lavia may be better right now, I don't think there will be a massive gap once Mainoo gets experience in the Premier League, and I do think that both have elite level potential, so why not back the young player already at United, and with United's current budget constraints, keeping Kobbie Mainoo rather than signing a backup seems a lot more appealing. So let me know what you think of Kobbie Mainoo in the comment section below. You can sign up to my Patreon, it will be linked in the description. And if you want cheap good quality football jerseys, go click the link in my Instagram bio. My Instagram is just Atlantis Football, so you should be able to find it.